Family.
Hi everyone.
Hey, how are you doing? Look here, it's Thursday. You know what time it is. It's Marriage Chronicles. Look here, go ahead and tell somebody that they need to let somebody know right now that we are on live. We are on Marriage Chronicles. You know what we do on Thursdays at 7 o'clock? We like to go ahead and see as much as possible from what we've gained in life, what we've gained in marriage, to see how we can go ahead and share it with each and every one of you. So go ahead and like it, share it, comment on it, talk. Let's talk. Let's make some stuff happen because I believe some great things are going to get ready to happen. So we're dealing with a subject on today, which I believe is absolutely important for us to deal with. Um, it could be something that could be a point of interest in a conversation when you are in a relationship, because not too many times outside of what we somewhat perceive of how the role of a man should be and how a woman, it's like so many people have heard, a woman should have their place. So we're going to have a conversation to see what is the place of a woman and what is the role of a man. And I think,
What about the place of a man and the role of a woman?
well, it could be, but I'm just going off the basis of
I'm
what
just,
other
I'm
people
just
have
saying. I'm
said.
just
You know,
saying. Just saying.
we're in the 21st century, and what it used to be from what it is right now is totally different in regards to what truly is the role of a man, or what is the place of a woman, or role of a woman and the place of a man, whatever we're going to, just to bring what my wife said into our conversation. But you can see her face already because you can already see this is an interesting conversation already, simply because not too many people really have this conversation. People get married, they get in a relationship, they fall in love, they have this fantastic moment of what they think this is going to be like, the movies that are 90 seconds of what a romantic relationship is going to be. Then they get married, they get in a serious relationship, and responsibilities happen,
Yeah.
and you start to ask yourself the question, who's cooking tonight? Which should have been a conversation you had before you even get married.
You can't
Yeah,
really have that
somewhat.
conversation before you get married.
Some
Can you?
people do.
It'd be good to discuss it, but you can't really talk about something that's you can prepare for it,
Right.
but I think it's good that you can actually have the conversation actually when you are married as well. But I think
I think things can
I
change
think
up
what
as
we're
well.
trying to get at today is, okay, whose role is it when you are with somebody?
Absolutely.
Because there are traditional roles in
Absolutely.
society that
Absolutely.
society has played on us and said the woman's role is to stay in the kitchen, look after the kids, do
Hmm.
all these sort of things, and
That's
the
right.
man's role is to go out and go and be the breadwinner for the family.
That's right.
But I'm sorry, society isn't like that anymore, and many of us have these ideas and try and bring it into our marriage today, because the thing is, what people don't understand is that women are working outside of the home. So the man has a job and the woman has a job, but yet sometimes the woman's expected to come home, do all the cooking, do all the cleaning, do all the things that a woman is supposed to do. And I don't know if you guys if you guys have that idea as well, but sometimes a lot of people have that perception. If you do, just please put a like down there, because some men do have that perception that my woman is supposed to be almost my mom.
Mm.
And I
Woo!
didn't get
That's
married
deep.
to be Ryan's mom.
That's
Ryan
deep.
has a mom already.
That's deep.
So I haven't got married to be anybody's mom, like apart from my son, who's Jeremiah, and any of the children I have. I'm not here to be a mom
And I
to
think
anybody.
I think that's key what you just said. We're going to kind of discuss that a little bit more. As you can see, my wife is already passionate about it.
Passionate.
Um, I think the only way we can do is let's start off what our background was like, having a mother, a father in the house. What did our mother and father? Because a lot of what we carry on in
Your
relationships
background, your culture
come
plays a
from
big part.
culture,
Yeah.
comes from how you grew up, and you kind of have the expectations when you get in marriage of the same thing. Because there's certain things I had, which we'll discuss that in a second. But what was your house like?
So,
The expectation of both
okay,
father and
so I grew up in the home, had mum and dad around up until the age of roughly about 16. Mum was very independent, and my mum was amazing, absolutely phenomenal. She was just, she was everything of an example of a woman that I am so glad that I am today. She was strong, she was confident, she was very bold, she knew how to articulate herself. She could cook, she could clean, she could do
she could cook.
absolutely anything she put her hand to. She was good, she was creative, she was fantastic. And one of the things that I found with my mom is that she kind of did everything. I don't think my dad cooked a meal in the house, but then the funny thing about my dad is that he didn't cook, but he was very critical of everything that he ate. So if I cooked a meal, it was like, oh, you know, it
So
doesn't
it's
taste,
like a
it
come
just,
dine
yeah.
with me type.
Yeah, honestly, I think my dad was on Come Dine With Me where he was the judge every single night in the house because he didn't cook. And I think what I kind of found was unfair, and I'm being very transparent with you, was that mum worked just as hard as dad. In fact, I think she worked harder. There were some seasons of her life where she had 2 jobs, and she worked really extremely hard. And I felt as though it wasn't really fair, so to speak. So there were some roles that my mum did that she would take the rubbish out and things like that. And I'm gonna be honest, it used to grieve the life out of me because I'm like, how is this lady
That's why
taking
you've
the
left
rubbish
me to
out?
take the
So
garbage out now.
hence,
I take the
I'll
garbage
tell
out
everybody my
all
story.
the
Don't worry,
time.
tell
All
my
the time.
story. Thank you very much.
Oh, I think it's my role.
Right, so I kind of came into marriage with the attitude that I'm not taking out a garbage bin or trash can or bin bag or whatever you want to call it, depending where you live. I'm not taking the rubbish out. That was me. I am not taking the rubbish out. My husband's there to do that. And then my husband challenged me and he said to me, oh, well, why don't you take the rubbish out? And I said, well, I'm a queen. Do you see Queen Elizabeth taking the rubbish out? No, Elizabeth does not take the rubbish out of her house. So you're the one that called me the queen. So I'm going to act like a queen. The queens don't take rubbish out. So we've always had this banter going back and forth for so many years now. And we've nearly been married 17 years. And we've been bantering about this rubbish bag.
I just do it.
Because I'm just like, well, no,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'm sorry.
And I know it seems silly. I just do it because some things, and it's a reason why I do. And we're going to speak about this a little bit later on. Some things you just do, just to kind of go with the flow, nothing to do with necessarily a role. And I think that's going to be very important as we discuss today. What are the points of view of a role? You know what I mean? As opposed to you just making something happen to keep the level of flow and a peace and a perception even in marriage.
Look at
I think
this. I'm
that's
sorry, I
important.
have to jump in.
What's
Even
up?
Pastor Jackson, Bishop Jackson, just said that his wife don't take. Thank you, Annette, Sister Annette Jackson.
You
Because
guys are
I'm
not helping me
sorry.
right now.
Why not? Thank you, guys. It's just something that I just, he called me a queen, and I'm going to walk into. I'm going to walk into the calling of that queen, and that means there's a certain persona, a certain attitude, a certain way I need to be. But he just wasn't.
Well, anyway, I think what's important, like even myself, how I grew up. My parents are Jamaican, and I don't know if your parents are from the Caribbean or from Africa or America. It doesn't matter, whatever the case may be. But my father was considered to be the provider. The provider did not cook. Provider did not do anything. He came, he sat down, and he's still sitting down. 87 years old, still sitting down right behind this wall. And he basically doesn't do anything besides just try to provide. My mom was the one that she cooked. This is how I grew up, and this is what I saw. I saw her just cook, make sure we were taken to school, make sure the different essence of things took place.
She ran the home.
She ran
Yeah.
the home. And I think it gets a bit, I personally think what becomes a little bit more challenging now, especially when it comes to roles. Roles are not what they used to be, considering that that the household could have been ran off of one income. Things have totally now
Mm.
in the 21st century where the household can't be ran off just one income.
Yeah.
It requires two
Yeah.
incomes.
Yeah.
So the reality of the situation is, how do you really define the role of a woman and man and still stick to a biblical stance of, at the same time, of loving and submission, because all of that is in play. And does loving, and this is good, because does loving and submission, the man loving his wife, a woman submitting at the same time, means that means the role of a woman is to cook, because it can
The
be
Bible does
easily
not
said,
say
and
that.
it doesn't,
The
and I
Bible
think
does
it's
not
interesting.
say
And
that the role of the
I
woman
I
is to
I
cook.
I know the role of a woman.
Okay.
I don't mind from time to time, because she's an excellent chef, and I think, and I've got to tell you, if you've ever tasted my wife's chicken wings, this is a quick commercial break. It is excellent. But anyway, she does a whole lot more.
Carry
But
on.
anyway, but it's one of those things about, I think it's very important for man is trying to keep a balance of biblical stance,
Mm.
but at the same time trying to make sure fulfill the roles of a 21st century marriage, as
Yeah.
opposed to a traditional marriage,
1950s,
1950s marriage, and
1960s.
things to that
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is important. I see you, John. You know what I mean? It's trying to, I think it's trying to keep that balance. And you're right. The Bible doesn't say the role of a woman is just to cook.
Mm-hmm.
It also doesn't say the role of a man is just to take out the trash or the
Mm-hmm.
garbage. And I think that's important, that we must reiterate that and make that statement. But it's one of these things where, because I've seen it all my life, the mistake I made is I came into marriage with the mindset that, you know what, my wife needs to be the one to cook. I'm gonna be the provider, because guess what, guys, this is what I've seen. So if this is what I've seen, I'm gonna come in here like the boss. You know what I mean? And says, you know what, woman, you need to clean the home. You need to make things happen. This is how it's going to go. This is early. We've been married 17 years now. This is early year of marriage, so don't make that mistake, guys. But and you know what? This is how it's going to flow. Lo and behold,
It was the wrong woman.
it
who
was
said
the
it.
wrong mistake. It was the mistake I made to think that this was going to be the woman that was going to make these type of things happen, because I'm like, it didn't work out. It really started to really bring some challenges, and we basically had to go back to I had to go back to the drawing board of how we were going to live in absolute harmony
And unity.
and unity
And peace.
and peace. And you know what I mean, without me getting in problems, or without, you know what I mean, because I think it's important, because we have a son, and I had to make sure set another precedence,
Yeah, we
and a
did.
culture for
Yeah.
my son,
Yeah.
because where I'm not, and this is just to be honest, because of the way I grew up in my household, I'm not necessarily a strong cook. You know what I mean? To an individual to cook. My wife, by far, she grew up in a family that the women did cook. So at the same time, we come in marriage of probably having a perception of different roles, understanding of different roles in different places, but that still didn't mean that we didn't come into the marriage with the strength of cooking, with the strength of
Yeah,
providing.
you couldn't cook really.
You
at
didn't
all.
have
It
to put
just-
me out
He
like that.
couldn't
No, I can cook.
No,
I-
when we first got no.
I can cook.
Listen, when we first got married, Ryan could not cook at all.
Tell them about now.
Hold
Nah,
on,
no,
let's.
tell
We have
them
to talk
about
about. We need
now.
to talk about the foundation
I
to
cooked some
see
good curry
how
goats.
you're a work in progress.
rice.
Wait. He's done absolutely phenomenal, because he couldn't even butter a piece of toast, and I'm not putting you out, babe. It's because I really do love you. No, I'm
This is
just trying to show
17
you.
years ago, guys.
No.
This is not now.
Yeah, but what
I'm a
what you
chef
couldn't
now.
I don't go that far. The point is that he was a mummy's boy, and his mom did absolutely everything for him, and she still kind of does now. She just wants to just do everything just to take the load off him, and she knows that he's working hard and so forth. So mom's there, and that's exactly what I want to do, you know, for my son Jeremiah. But Ryan, he never lived on his home, so he came straight from mom's house into our home. So when we got married, so then when that time came, I think his perception is that he's got another mom, and this other mom called Jamie is going to do things that his mom used to do.
She did spoil me though.
I did, yeah. And you know what? And the thing is, as well, is I do cook. I cook pretty much majority of the time. You know, I used to cook all the time, and I enjoy doing it because I enjoy seeing my husband eat the food, and he'll turn around and say, "Man, that was good." And just when I see his face, it just brought so much joy to my heart. And you know, all those people who are out there who like cooking, you know what it's like when somebody eats your food and they thoroughly enjoy it.
Now, do you think that's down to a role or a passion?
Yeah, so I do it because I cook because it's my passion. I am passionate about cooking. So when you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel like a chore. But I can imagine how sometimes, and there was a period of time actually when I was working extremely hard and I was doing a lot of cooking. We both were. We both were. We had a lot going on, but I was kind of doing majority of the cooking as I normally do. And I had to turn around and say to him, say, "Look, Ryan, I need some help here because things are becoming too much for me." To the point where he turned around and he said to me, "But Jay, you love cooking. You're passionate about cooking." I said, "Well, the passion's gone now."
But things changed because you started to work.
Yeah, because I've got a lot going on. So the passion
absolutely.
I wasn't enjoying it. It was just all about cooking for survival, really, and you know, making sure it tastes good for the family. So I needed that help, and you know, we came to some arrangement where we had to alternate just to get through, you know, our day-to-day week and take the pressure off in different ways. So,
and the reality of it, guys, if I can get away from not cooking, let me tell you something. I will not cook. That is because as my wife, and there's nothing to do with the role, as my wife has a passion for cooking, I don't necessarily have that passion. My passion is more in the creativity, more making things happen, kind of pre-planning, forwarding, you know, making sure administrative wise, paying the bills, which my wife does not like dealing with that administrative side of things. And I think it's important because what we want to get to is that it's not about a man's role. No, neither is it about a woman's place.
Yeah.
It is about strengths and weaknesses in a relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean just because cooking is more of my weakness, that doesn't mean I don't do it. Now, I have this philosophy, guys, and if you can afford it and you can do it, this might help you out. My philosophy is that when it's my night to cook, we have takeout. We go out, we get something to eat. Uber Eats, get the app. It's going to save your life, man. Straight up and down. So my son comes to me and says, "Dad, it's your night to cook." So he knows when it's my night to cook, he knows we're going to get some chicken wings from Uber Eats or something to that degree. And so when everybody's sitting down eating, I said, "Guys, how do you like the cooking today?" Everybody raise on for the simple fact. And I found my way of bringing forth contribution, and it
works for us, and I'm happy with it. But then at the same time, there are circumstances where Jonathan Jackson, I'm going to kick you off. There are situations and times where it doesn't work for you, and financially it's a lot of a burden, and it's about actually
I do it once a week, by the way.
Exactly what was posted before, coming together in partnership, coming together in partnership, working together as a team. Does your cooking have to taste like your husband's cooking or your wife's cooking, whoever's the best cook? No, it doesn't. It's about working together to what suits for the family. And I think it's about breaking down these additional roles, because it puts pressure on you as an individual. It puts pressure on the marriage. And also, at one point, if I'm very honest with you, and being very I kind of felt as though I built a bit of resentment towards Ryan, because I was like running like 12-hour shifts, coming home, and everyone's looking at me like birds with their mouths wide open, like I'm hungry. And I'm looking like, what on earth do you want me to do about that? Like, go sort yourselves out. But it's almost like dependence. Or Jeremiah will call me. It's like, Mom, what are we having for dinner? And I'm like, where's your dad? Oh, he's here. He's on his laptop. I'm like, okay, so I can't cook dinner while I'm on the road driving. So you guys going to have to sort something out. But not knowing that is that he was engrossed. And what was challenging, I think, for us at one point, and I don't know for you guys as well, is that Ryan working from home. So I struggled with that because I'm thinking if he's at home, there's still things that he can do at home. But in his mind, he's absolutely fantastic at, if I'm at work and I'm working from home from 9 or 8 till 5 or till 6, he's not doing nothing in between those times, apart from probably getting something to eat and taking a small break. So don't be asking him to do anything. So, but sometimes he works a lot of overtime on his laptop, which is not scheduled. So that sometimes eats into that. So you kind of need to find a plan really that works well with your family. And it's about putting down together a schedule. I think what really helped is actually we got to a period where we were scheduling what we were going to have for the week. The thing is with me, I'm a terrible shopper when it comes to food. Like I will literally go out to the shops every day. Every day, I'm getting something for dinner. I'm the pre-planner. And he's a pre-planner, so he will go and get all the shopping for the whole month. Like, that's a lot of bags to carry. I'm not carrying all those bags, and I don't have the patience to sit in the line, to wait in the line, waiting for those bags. But it works well because he's taught me to pre-plan. Jay, pre-plan. Let's get the food for the whole week. He'll go to the market. He's the type of person, he'll go to the market and buy up all the chicken. Don't get me wrong, I was traumatized going to the market. So I'm not a market person, if I'm honest with you, because my grandmother used to drag us to the market every Saturday morning, and we used to stand there in that smelly place while she's talking to her friends for hours upon hours. So I'm not a market fan. So I know some of you are.
It brings us back to our strength and weaknesses. Yeah, I think it's so important because there's certain things when I had to realize in regards to the strengths and weaknesses that my wife actually carries. She likes to do certain things, and there's certain things she doesn't like to do, but I've realized that it's important for me to be able to assist her in every way possible where she finds weaknesses. And because I think this is important, because sometimes when sometimes in marriage you can get to a place that you believe that the person that God has put you with, you both are supposed to have the same strengths. You are not supposed to have the same strength. You're not created to have the same strengths. That basically, if you believe both of you are supposed to be the same and have the same strengths, you should have just married yourself and probably stayed single. Because the reality of it is that the reality of it is that where I am weak, she's strong in. You know what I mean? And where she's weak and I'm strong in. And we complement one another. When it comes to when there's something that my wife says, drop the ball, I pick it up, and vice versa. And it's about being able to understand that it's not about roles. It's about being there for one another in each other's strengths and weaknesses to be able to move each other and take each other to the next level. I think that's so important. Partnership is
so key. Working together in partnership, talking, good communication, I think is so important. And the reason why it's important is because sometimes some of us can be the type of person where we plod along and we don't say anything, and we're developing resentment in our hearts, and we're developing an offense, and we keep going along. Oh, look at him, he hasn't even done this, or he hasn't done that, and he expects me. Sometimes we have a big conversation in our heads, and we're talking ourselves into every reason why we should feel resentment towards our spouse. And it's about sitting down and talking to each other, talking it through, planning, pre-planning, planning ahead. So planning your week out. So get a schedule board. We put a schedule board up in our house, and we put down all our schedules in our home, didn't we? What we were doing for that week, what we were hoping to eat, so that we can pre-plan, take food out the fridge in order to prepare for the week, so it's a less stressful week. We got in typical basic things that some people even frown upon, really. Gardener, like, we haven't got time to garden. Like, no, I'm sorry. We both got hay fever. House cleaner. And he even developed
she wanted me to clean more?
No, I'm talking about the garden. He happened to develop hay fever.
No, I did have hay fever.
He developed.
For those of you who are in America, and you don't know what hay fever is, it is it's an allergy thing that takes place. When I was living in England, it was crazy. I couldn't cut the grass, so my wife wanted the grass cut. So guess what? I hired, and we tried to get between us both get a gardener. It's
Yeah,
just
just a
we made it
gardener.
happen,
Yeah.
guys. I think the thing is that I think it's important. So wherever there's a weakness, sometimes if you both can't do it, you hire your weakness. That's one of the concepts, especially in business, that I absolutely understand. But don't get this twisted. From a biblical preference, this is where I'm a bit traditional and I'm old fashioned. It's one thing I did see my father do that I hold on to. He was a provider for the home. Now, and I truly believe that although we're in a society where both individuals, especially in the 21st century, we can't live by just one paycheck anymore. Both the man and the woman works. I truly still believe that, as a somewhat of a traditionalist in it, that a man should be providing for his home. He shouldn't be sitting down there just doing nothing with his life. He should be making sure his woman is treated like a queen. Even if she make more, it doesn't matter. The word provider is not on the base of how much money you make. The word provider as a man, and this is very from a biblical point of view, and I think this is so important, is for us to be able to understand you're providing, emotional stability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not only
Right.
financial
Yeah.
stability, but emotional stability. You're providing, making sure that everyone is okay. Even providing fun for your house, even providing from the perspective that, of having each other's back. Because as a man, you're the provider, you're the protector, and you are the priest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's something about, and I think this is important to be able to understand from a woman's perspective, if there was supposed to be, quote unquote, a place of a woman, there's something about a woman that, as me as a man, that I just can't do. My wife is an absolute amazing nurturer. You know what I mean? So the roles and the place is not necessarily about who does what, who picks up the hammer, who takes out the trash, who goes ahead and cooks. It's nothing to do with that. I look on it from a deeper level, that it's creating an emotional platform for the family structure to be able to grow and to become what it needs to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think a key thing that I really want to add into that, which helped to build fantastic foundations for our marriage, was our love language, and identifying what is our love language. Now, my love language is acts of service.
Absolutely.
So I kind of felt frustrated when that level or that area of my love language was not being fulfilled by my husband. So sometimes just but little things, when you're coming home from work and they've been home, they're home before you, and the house is a mess, and
She likes the house clean
I like
before
the
it's
house
done.
to be at least tidy. I'm
So
not
my son just
expecting.
throws everything underneath the bed and says, "Mommy, hey, here, it's clean."
But mommy goes underneath the bed. But one thing that, first it used to frustrate me. And, when you've had a stressful day, you come into the home and it's like that. It's almost like it added extra stress. I kind of felt I was moody coming into the house because all I can see is mess, and all I can see is all the things I need to do before I go to bed. So what was really nice when we had the conversation, in fact, we had a family meeting. So we have family meetings once a month. So we have meetings with myself and Ryan, where we sit down, we go to a coffee shop, we sit down and talk about the things that are pertaining to us as a couple, but we also sit down and look at things pertaining to us as a family through our family meetings. So we are very good at family meetings. We put our rules on the fridge and everything like that, just so that we are all singing off the same song sheet. And one of the things that when I spoke to Ryan, he really put some things in place, and he really changed.
That's the Steve Chapman book, the love language. Pastor Jackson mentioning,
the Steve Chapman book. It's fantastic. And so one of the key things that he did was that he was willing to change. He was willing to put things in place to take the burden off. So when I was coming home and the house is tidy, it was just nice to be home, even if I had a stressful day
Yeah.
or whatever it was just nice. And we had to really, when we understood each other's love language, it really helped, especially with our roles. It didn't seem like a task. It seemed like a true partnership, a true team. It doesn't matter who does what, there's not an imbalance. And when you are fulfilled in those areas, then you don't
Absolutely.
feel as though, oh, wow, it just seems like the scale is tipping that way and I'm seeming to do everything while you're just sitting back relaxing and, you know, putting your feet up. And one of the things that I love about my husband is that he doesn't, before, when he was when he was a lot younger, he would literally sit down, watch TV and watch me clean around him. And it used to frustrate me. You know, sometimes accidentally the vacuum might knock into his feet or knock the chair that he's sitting on, because I'm trying to make a point here that I'm cleaning and you're just sitting down chilling.
Again,
But we
remember
had to speak about
what
it.
remember what I seen my whole life. I've seen my mom work, my dad sit on the couch as the king who he is, to the point of sitting on the couch till he's 87 now. And so I had to get myself in the mindset that that's not, you can't do that. You can't just see my wife just doing what she's doing and I'm not assisting, even if it's something I can assist with. Even
Yeah.
asking the question, sometimes asking a question
Do you need
is
help?
support.
Yeah.
It's support.
Yeah.
It's up to them whether they say yes or no. If they say no, well, you know what I mean? Then we can go
You've
back.
asked.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
asked and I can go back on the couch and sit down
But
and
the other
watch.
thing to add to that, sometimes you're a joker. But sometimes, ladies, I don't know if you're aware of this, but sometimes our spouses do come and ask, do we need help? But we're so used to doing things that we say no all the time. No, 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 no. So imagine if we keep saying no, we're not involving them in on the journey as well. So now, even if it's just a little thing, I just say yes. Like, yeah, could you just, even if it's just simple, because sometimes I in my head, I'll think, oh, he probably can't do it as good as I can do it. But actually, when I allow him to do it, Ryan could probably be clean better than me because he's so
I do clean
anal
better.
when he
I do
cleans. Like
clean better
everything is.
than my wife.
No, let's not go that
No,
far.
I
No,
clean better than my
no.
wife. When she looks at it, she's like, "Wow,
No,
this is
that doesn't mean that it's
absolutely
better than-
amazing." No, it's better. It's better.
Moving on.
Guys, we can
Just
vote
ignore
on this,
what he
but
said.
it's better.
Just ignore him. I'm giving you a compliment here. That it was nice, you know, he cleans really well and it was really helpful. So I brought him involved on the journey to help to clean. And if he asks me to do something, I give him a little something to do, or I'll say, yeah, can you just help me with this? And it works really well together as a team.
That's a good. I think that's a good question. Do you think a question being asked? Do you think Black women are too independent? I think because of how things have gone so far left with traditionalism, and now that there is and I'm very careful in saying this, there is the women's rights, and which are amazing rights that they carry. And I truly believe a woman should have rights in this day and age in which we are to do. But I truly believe this is so important that now that they've become independent, and after speaking with a few individuals who are trying to get married at the age of 40, 50 years old, they're finding that a man sometimes has nothing to offer that woman because the woman is so accomplished. She's done so much with her life. And as a man who's coming to marry a woman, he wants to feel as though he's able to bring forth a level of contribution to the relationship. And it actually becomes sometimes a turnoff for men if they feel like the woman is too complete.
But do you think, though, that Black women, going back to the question, do you think that Black women are too independent?
So the reality of the situation, I think they are very much independent. And I
Yeah.
think they can sometimes be too independent. And I believe there's nothing wrong with independence, but I think independence has its right place. And sometimes when you're in marriage is created for vulnerability, not for independence, but to be interdependent.
I think
Ooh,
we
that
have
was
to.
good. That was good. Interdependent. Did y'all just hear that? Not just independent, because that brings something from what takes away from what when the preacher's saying two now shall become one. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There should not be independence
Can
on
I
that.
say, I
But
think the thing is we have to look at the history of a black woman, especially in terms of the role that they played. So if the man was out working and she's at home and she's doing those things, she has to learn a level of independence in that
mm,
sense. I think as well, there's unfortunately, a lot of single parents out there who have had to be both mom and dad. So my mom was very, even though she was married for a period of time in her life, she was technically independent
yeah,
because she had to do anything that needed doing in the home. She had to do. She had to work. So she was very, very independent. She didn't depend on a man to do anything, and I think that independence is a good thing because I think that it's not about being held ransom or not. Sometimes when I say ransom, because it's not always ransom, because some relationships there are ransoms where, okay, well, I'll do it when I'm ready, and it's sometimes that brings out a level of frustration. So there's good independence and there's also a negative independence where you can say, actually, I don't need a man in my life, I don't need you, I don't need you to do anything, I can do it all by myself. And even though I was raised by a very independent woman, my mum also taught me as well that that you have to make sure that when you walk in your marriage, you're walking together in partnership. So even though I'm a strong character and I'll always remain a strong black woman, confident in who I am, and know what I stand for, I know the things that I like, I am also aware that I have a husband, so I'm not going to take on this whole big rucksack and journey of life on my back and pretend I haven't got no help around me when I do. I have help as well. And when they talk about saying that that your wife is your help me, we both help to meet each other's needs. We both help in this journey of what you call life. So I don't think black women are too independent. I think there are amazing independent black women, but
which
I
they
think
should be.
also as well, I think it's good for women to learn that when you're in a partnership, and yes, I mean, for example, case in point, there was a brilliant example that you spoke about just now about finances and about being the main breadwinner. There was a short period of time when you first came into the country,
Hmm.
didn't have a job, didn't have much money with him, and I was working, and
And I asked you to
and he said to me,
provide for
yeah,
me for 3 months when I first came in the country. And I said, at the end of 3 months, I will make sure be the one providing for you. The first month I'll look for a
mm,
job. The second month I'll get a job, I told her. And the third month I'll get my paycheck and I'll be pushing things and trying to make things happen as much as possible.
yeah,
Because my mindset was I did not want her to have to kill herself in working, because I think the way the economy is going and the way finances are, when we were living, England it can be a very can be an expensive place, as so can Florida as well.
yeah.
We live in
But can
expensive
I just add
environments.
to that
Hmm.
what you were saying? One of the things which was important for me as a woman, because it was hard enough for him to come in to the country, not have the finance that he needed, and to literally kind of live off me. And it was my role then to support him and to make him feel secure in that, and not turn around and say, "Well, I gave you money for this and I gave you money for that," and da 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 da. Because sometimes we can do
That's when your
that,
back goes
and it
up.
demasculizes him,
Yeah,
to the point where he would feel as though he wasn't worth anything. And so it's important that there are times in your relationships that you will find
absolutely.
that one will be doing better than the other, and the other, well, not better, one will be more advanced or probably in their career, and the other person is
Push forward.
probably working towards it. And it's about understanding that there are times in your relationship where it will be like this, that one's at university, the other
Hmm.
one's working, or vice versa, or one's working towards their book or their dreams, and the other one is supporting.
Yeah,
It's about looking at the season that you're in at that particular point and supporting through that journey, which is so important. And a good point that someone just raised is that, yes, black women and women in general had to take on a lot of masculine
they did.
roles,
They did.
and
They did.
it's so
They did.
important to recognize that. I'm going to be honest with you that I think that a lot, the the culture of black men, especially marriages, and I'm seeing a lot of people who are married nowadays, and just men in general, is changing, where roles are significantly changing, like where you've got stay-at-home dads. I think that's fantastic. Like, if you're in a relationship where your wife is earning way more, where you can have a better quality of life, and you're a dad that's happy to stay home, does that mean that you're not a man, or does that
No, you're
mean you're
still a
not the
man.
man of the home? It
You're
doesn't
still a man.
mean that at all. What that actually means is that, you know what, the roles have changed. This is different, and this is what works well for us as a couple. And it's nice to see that we're challenging, that people are challenging social norms and proving that this can work, and
Absolutely.
proving that you can be happy, proving that you can grow, and that your marriage and your home can be fruitful as a result. You have to work well and work with what works well for you. But then at the same time, it's about building each other up. That my husband, for example, does not have to come into the house and tell me, I'm the man of the house, you guys will have to respect me, and da 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 da. He doesn't have to do that.
Don't have to do
And
that.
and when you have to do that to a person, or to the home, or to your work environment, that's not showing that you are a
Flexing your chest.
leader.
Yeah.
You don't have to flex your pecs to let me know that you're a man. I can see that you're a man, but what actually shows a man from a man and a boy is how you behave. Like, how do you act when you are in the home? How do you treat your wife in front of your children? How do you speak to your wife in front of the children? One of the key things that we always make sure that my husband, and I have to love him for this, is that he always speaks to me very respectfully in front of Jeremiah. Our job is to make sure that Jeremiah can be the best man that he can be when he grows up. And it's about teaching him. And it's about also teaching him as well to be independent. I do not, this is me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but I do not want my son to be dependent on a woman to do anything. I don't mind the interdependency when they're married, but I want to know that my son can cook.
He can bring
I want
something
to
to
know,
the table
he can bring
beforehand.
something to the table.
Yeah.
It's not just about finances as well, because it's not just about finances that you can bring to the table. There's other things that actually makes your marriage more whole that you can bring to the table.
So I got a question before we go. My question to you is, what was it like? We're talking about strengths and weaknesses. Considering you grew up in a single parent home, and that's what created a lot of the independence in you.
Yeah.
Now you have to come. You're in a marriage to be interdependent.
Yeah.
You know, I think even coming to Florida, you had to be even more interdependent than even
Yeah,
normal.
because I'm not working, so
Yeah,
I am fully dependent on my
We're just doing business,
and when
man.
it comes financially, because this is how things were financially. So financially, my husband, he would pay all the bills, pretty much most of the bills in the house. I've not paid, and I'm so grateful to God for this, that I have not paid a mortgage in the house. But then at the same time,
17 years.
but then at the same time, my money was my money, or we went on holidays.
Absolutely,
or so. This is just the agreement that worked for us.
Absolutely.
We discussed it. We were both happy with it. If he turned around and said to me, Jade, you know what, 50-50 on the mortgage, I would like you to be involved in the payment, I will happily do it. So you do what works well for you. But he was happy to be that person to say, you know what, I'm going to pay for the mortgage. I don't want you to have that responsibility. So obviously coming to Florida now without a job, I am completely dependent on him. But then there's also...
And this is important. I know you say, I don't mean to sorry to cut you. With my wife coming and being dependent on me, it is my job as a husband to make sure, and I haven't forgotten the question I was going to ask, where I'm asking her. It is my job as a husband to not be pushing that in her face, saying, look here, I'm doing this. I'm providing for you, woman. Go ahead on the stove and you go ahead and cook because I'm providing for you. You know what I mean?
Anyway,
it wouldn't work, but I'm just trying to think. Okay. But it's one of those things to make her feel as comfortable as possible in the moment in which she is in. But I mean, going back to the question, how do you find yourself going from independent to interdependence, and to the point of becoming vulnerable? How do you become vulnerable, considering the household you've come from, learning how to be an independent woman, How did you just turn on that vulnerability? Because marriage is all about vulnerability. It's not about independence, especially as a strong black woman. How
Mm.
did you start to become vulnerable? And even when I make mistakes,
Yeah.
it's so easy to pull back and be like, I'm not going to do this anymore. How do you be vulnerable and continue to be vulnerable?
I think vulnerability was easy because of the type of person that you are. I felt safe around you. I feel safe to discuss how I feel. I feel safe to talk about my feelings and my emotions. So, and you didn't push it in my face. And I can imagine how, if you was a different man, in the sense that you tried to put your stamp on me, I think it would have ended really badly, because I don't think that as a couple we probably could have lasted. And I would have prayed that we did, but I'm being very transparent. We wouldn't, because what you've got to understand is that in my background as well, there was things weren't always very things were quite violent. Actually, growing up, I experienced a bit of domestic violence in my home growing up as a child. So I wanted to make sure that no man was going to treat me in that way, how I saw my mum being treated. So if, for example, if you ever laid a hand on me, gosh, you would have seen me in the newspaper, because I would have gone to prison happily, and it would have been some bloodbath that would have happened in Birmingham. You would have seen my picture on it. And I'm being very transparent, because I'd created all the things that were fears and all the things that were an issue growing up as a child. I had cemented it in my mind to say that I would never, ever allow a man to treat me that way. So because you showed me completely the opposite to what I was seeing growing up, it completely changed my perception. I
Right.
couldn't behave in that way that I had planned I was going to behave in that way,
Right,
because
right.
I had planned that all men were the same, or all men were going to behave that way.
Mm.
And even, like, for example, when we had an argument or a discussion, or a very heated discussion, in my mind I'd already played out how it was going to end up, and it was going to end up a way according to how I was used to seeing things end up. And it didn't. Completely the opposite. You don't argue. You're very firm
Right.
in what you say,
But lay back.
but you don't argue. You're very laid back. You're happy for discussion. You're happy for us to work through things. So it was easy for me to basically renounce my independence. Renounce it. You don't renounce your independence, do you? Normally, because when you're independent, it means you're coming out of slavery. But my marriage isn't isn't a slave environment. My marriage is a peaceful. Our home is a peaceful environment. So for me to surrender that, it's not an issue at all. I enjoy it. In fact, I get more benefits, guys. Being to a husband, I get more benefits, and so I'm going to walk in those benefits. I'm going to claim my wifely rights. That's what I do. I access those. You see how we've got to access our heavenly rights in heaven? I access my wifely rights. So all the things that I know I have access to, I will gain access to. Not an issue.
So family. So look here. Just to conclude this, so you guys can know this, defining the roles of a man and the place of a woman is not about roles nor places.
No.
It's all about strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah.
and making sure we fulfill for one another those strengths and weaknesses, to
Yeah.
make sure wherever my wife has a weakness, I fulfill it with a strength, and wherever I have a weakness, she fulfills it with a strength. Because we're in the 21st century, and don't get me wrong, as I said before, I'm still a traditionalist, and I still believe in a man providing. I still believe in a woman being that nurturer. But at the same time, I believe we both can provide in this 21st century, and we both can be a nurturer within our home. We got to create that culture and still having good standing with our Heavenly Father, because He desired us, especially when it came to Adam and Eve, to walk together in the cool of the day
Yeah.
and to have dominion on the earth together. So look here, we're going to do what we do best. We're going to pray before we leave. And we want to pray and we want to believe for somebody who's heard this today. Look here, guys, go ahead and share this. Don't keep this to yourself. This is something I believe that these are some conversations that many of us have been thinking about for a long time, but not having necessarily the platform or finding the platform to be able to have that level of discussion. We want it to be as real as possible, you know what I mean? And we're going to go ahead and continue to bring realness every Thursday at 7 o'clock. We're going to make this happen. We're going to pray and we're going to believe that God is going to, if things are in a bad situation, he's going to turn around. If it's in a great situation, we're giving you more tools to be able to carry on and move forward. Let's just pray and
But
believe.
before
Are
you
you gonna say
pray, I was going to say, please, guys, if you can check out the book that was mentioned, you'll see it in the chat about love language.
Steve
It
Chapman,
was
yeah.
so beneficial to us as a man. And family meetings, just some key. I'm just pulling out some key points as to what we have spoken about today. Love language, and even if you're single, love languages are important. You've got to figure out what your love language is.
Absolutely.
And it's good that if you know that before you get into a marriage or before you get into a relationship, understand yourself. This is a perfect time to get to understand yourself, mastering yourself so you know what your likes and your dislikes are. The other thing as well, I'll definitely say family meetings, so important because it helps for you to understand the ethos of your family in terms of what the core values are for your family. And it also helps you for everybody to be on the same page and the same level. And also find out what's the blueprint for your marriage and your relationship. And stop kicking.
Look, we're going to pray. We're going to pray. Let's pray and believe. There's a whole lot more. We're going to leave it for next time. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you. We love you. We adore you. We're believing, Lord, right now. Lord, the individuals that are listening, we're praying, Lord, that
Thank you, Jesus.
great and wonderful and mighty things are going to happen for people's relationships, their marriage,
Yes,
that there's going to be strength. Lord, that, Lord, the testimonies, Lord, and the examples that we're giving, Father, will help them, Father, to be better husbands, better wives, Lord God, better fiancés, better fiancés, Lord God, to be able to move forth in the ways that they never thought. We thank you, we love you, and we adore you for this moment, Lord, for what you're doing, what you will continue to do. Have your way. We bless you, we thank you, and we love you now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Guys, we love you.